We rely on you.
This needs your expertise.
You're indispensable. You hear these words all the time, right? And at first, they feel great. They feel like a badge of honor. It's a sign that you are seen, that you are valued. But then, in those quiet moments, maybe after you've just pulled off another impossible deadline, a question starts to bubble up. If you're so valued, so trusted, so, well, indispensable, why aren't you getting promoted?
Well, that feeling, that nagging question you can't quite shake, it actually has a name. It's a career paradox that catches some of the most talented, most capable people inside organizations. We call it the trust trap. And it's this really strange place to be, where you are deeply trusted to do the work, but you're never promoted to lead. In this explainer, we're going to pull this whole thing apart, piece by piece.
So how do we actually get out of this trap? Well, you can't escape something you don't understand. So first, we'll need to really dig in. We're going to start by profiling the indispensable employee. Does this sound like you? Then, we'll look at the red flags, the clear warning signs. After that, we'll dive deep into the psychology of the two very different kinds of trust at play. We'll analyze the real, hidden price of being so reliable. And then finally, we'll lay out a strategic shift to help you break free for good.
Okay, so let's start with who falls into this trap. It almost always begins with being the go-to person. You know who I'm talking about. You're the organization's safety net. You're the one who gets the call when the stakes are sky high. And let's be honest, in the beginning, it feels incredible. It feels like you're winning the game.
So does this profile start to sound a little familiar? You're the one they tap for the most critical tasks because management has zero doubt they'll get done perfectly. You're handed the sensitive work because your discretion is legendary. You're the hero of the last-minute rescue, constantly pulling projects back from the brink of disaster. They put you on high-risk situations because you yourself are seen as the ultimate risk reducer. When failure just is not an option, your name is the only one on the list.
And right here, this is the paradox. This is the exact moment that honor starts to feel a little hollow. All that immense responsibility, all of that earned trust, it puts you right at the center of the action. But it doesn't put you on the path for advancement. When those big conversations are happening behind closed doors about new roles, about leadership, about the future, your name isn't even in the mix. And here is the crucial, unsettling point. It's not despite your incredible capability. It's very often because of it.
This brings us to the telltale signs of the trap. And usually, it shows up as this jarring disconnect between the words people are saying to you and the professional reality you're actually living. So let's break that disconnect down, because learning to recognize this pattern is the absolute first step to ever changing it.
Yeah, this slide just lays that feeling bare, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the language of incredible value, you're indispensable. But the reality on the ground, your peers, sometimes even people you've personally trained, are the ones getting the promotions. You hear we rely on you, but what that really means is they rely on your current output, not your future potential. And the killer is, this needs your expertise. That phrase becomes the very reason you're anchored to your current role, not the springboard to a new one.
And that brings us to the cold, hard, clinical diagnosis of the situation. The organization, without even realizing it sometimes, has placed you in a very specific box. They've given you an enormous amount of trust, but it's a very particular kind of trust. It is the trust to deliver. It's trust in your execution. It is absolutely not the trust that's required for leadership, which is a whole different ballgame about scaling and enabling others. And the system itself is designed to keep you right where you provide the most predictable value.
Okay, so let's get into the psychology of this, because this is where things can get a little unsettling. Why? Because it's not personal. It's systemic. To really get why this trap works, you have to understand that not all trust is created equal inside an organization. There are two very distinct types, and they lead to vastly different career outcomes.
First up, there's execution trust. This is the trust you've worked so hard to earn. It's the rock-solid belief that if a task is given to you, it will be completed, on time, on budget, and to an incredibly high standard. It's built on a long track record of consistency and dependability. Think of it as the trust of the master craftsperson, the expert, the reliable operator. It's an amazing thing to have.
And then there's leadership trust. And this is a fundamentally different currency. It has almost nothing to do with what you can personally accomplish. It's about what you can inspire and enable others to do. It's the belief that you can multiply your own impact, that you can navigate ambiguity, and that you can make smart strategic bets on the future. It's the trust of a multiplier, not just a doer.
And this table just brilliantly illustrates the cold logic of the organization. Execution trust is all about doing. Its core value is that it reduces current operational risk. So for the organization, you represent stability. Now contrast that with leadership trust. Its focus is on scaling. It actually requires embracing future risk, the risk of a new strategy, the risk of developing unproven talent. Its value to the organization is growth. So the system, just by its very nature, is going to prioritize stability in its key operational roles. It's going to protect what's already working. And if you are the source of that stability, the system's logic is to keep you right there.
And that's it. That is the absolute heart of the trap. Your greatest professional strength, your incredible reliability, becomes the very thing that contains you. The organization, in a rational attempt to minimize its own risk, inadvertently builds your career cage out of praise and critical assignments. You become so good at your job that they literally cannot imagine the role without you in it. And because they can't imagine it, they don't plan for it.
So how does this actually play out over time? Because the trust trap isn't some sudden event. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, creeping process. What starts out feeling like an honor gradually and painfully calcifies into a burden, and it absolutely exacts a real price from you, both professionally and personally.
You can almost set your watch to it. In year one, being the go-to person feels fantastic. It's just pure recognition of your talent and hard work. Then, in year two, your role expands. You take on way more responsibility, often doing the work of a more senior person, but your title and your paycheck, they don't follow. By year three, stagnation starts to set in. You are undeniably essential, everyone says so, but you are not being elevated. And you start watching others, maybe with less experience, pass you by. And by year four, sometimes sooner, burnout arrives. The crushing weight of all that critical work combined with a total lack of growth creates this silent, simmering frustration.
And it all boils down to this single, chilling summary. From the organization's point of view, the logic is actually sound, even if nobody ever says it out loud. You are too important to lose from your current role, and you are simply too useful in your current role to promote. You've accidentally become the perfect, stable cog in a machine that desperately needs you right where you are.
But here's the thing, you are not a cog, and recognizing the trap is the biggest part of the battle. So now, let's talk about how to dismantle it. This is going to require a very conscious, very strategic shift in how you operate, how you think, and how you communicate your value. The goal is simple, to move from being seen as the ultimate doer to being seen as a future leader.
All right, this is your escape plan. 4 key steps. First, you have to reframe your goal. Stop seeing another critical project as progress. It's not. It's just another brick in the wall. It's a sign of execution trust, which we now know does not lead to promotion. Second, you have to delegate and do it aggressively. Every single time you allow yourself to be the only one who can do a task, you are reinforcing the trap. Your new mission is to train other people and document your processes. You have to make yourself obsolete in the doing. Third, showcase scalability. When you report on a project, stop just talking about the great result. Start talking about the system you built that allows anyone to get that same result again and again. You have to frame your success as multiplication, not just addition. And finally, and this one is so important, make your growth an explicit conversation. Do not wait for it to happen. Schedule time with your manager with the specific agenda of discussing your career path and what leadership exposure you need to get there.
And all of this brings us to a really powerful and kind of counterintuitive idea. Your whole career, you've been taught to make yourself indispensable. To escape the trust trap, you have to strategically make yourself replaceable, at least in your day-to-day execution. The more you empower other people to do your current job, the more you free yourself up to be seen as a serious candidate for the next level. To put it another way, you have to solve your own succession problem for your bosses so they don't have to think about it.
So we're going to leave you with this one critical question to think about. If you got the call tomorrow and were offered a promotion, who would do your current job? If the answer is no one, or I have no idea, then you've just found your single most important strategic project. Your next career move doesn't start by looking up at the role you want. It starts by looking right at the role you have now and building a bridge for someone else to cross it. And that is how you escape the trust trap.